You're watching after right out of the gate. You're watching AfterBuzz TV's Legends of Tomorrow After Show. We're recapping episode 9, season 1 here, Left Behind. We're going to find out about going native, Rory's identity revealed there, or Cronus' identity revealed, and freezing limbs. How good are they to do? So stay tuned, everybody.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
So yes, those are times when you want your own personal wave rider to go back in time to go do a cold open the way it's supposed to be.
So we're going to be talking about how good freezing limbs are to do?
Yep, that was proper English, everybody. That was it. Yep, I got to go back and save myself from that terrible cold open. Look at that, everybody. Welcome to AfterBuzz TV's Legends of Tomorrow After Show. We'll be recapping Season 1, Episode 9, Left Behind. How about that? I got it right a little bit later, but it was all right. Hey, everybody, I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter. Happy Go Jackie is that handle. I've got the rest of the panel right here. Up to my immediate left, we have Lex Michael.
That's me. I am Lex Michael. All over social media at the Lex Michael, and it's always great to work in a little bit of Cyndi Lauper whenever possible.
Next up, we have the adorable Dave Child.
Hi, I'm adorable. This song was my choice.
Yes.
You can find me at MrDaveChild on Twitter and Instagram. And this is because Cronus kept finding them time after time.
Aww.
And we found out it was because of love.
That's right. And rounding out the panel, we've got Katie Cullen.
Hi, I recommended Burn from Hamilton because, oh my God, so many we're burning it, it's going to burn, fire, dear God, we get it.
What, the narrative?
Yes, they definitely burned the narrative on this one. You can follow me on Twitter at Kiaxet, that's Kiaxet. I've also got the live chat open in front of me, so hi guys.
Yeah, chat at us.
Yeah, so we're kicking off episode 9. We're heading into the back half of season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow. So heading back into this back half, we've been away for 3 weeks or so.
About 2 years. About 2 years stuck in the 50s.
There you
go. 2.5 years, give or take.
So with the time away, getting ready to gear up towards our final push towards the season finale. Were you guys? What would you guys want out of this episode? Kind of what were your hopes for?
Our hopes
I
and
wanted
dreams.
them to stick the landing, and they really didn't.
Right.
Oh man. I usually really like this show. I usually just have a ton of fun sitting back and watching this, and it's usually fairly solidly written. This episode was fan fiction tropes from an inexperienced writer. I've read enough stories like this to go, and then that, and then that, and then that. Okay, this is someone's first or second or third story, and they don't quite know the ropes yet. And I'm sad that that's what comes across to me in what is very much a professional production right after an episode that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I wanted to find out more about Cronus, and then I did. And it was a little disappointing to find out. And, to get Rory back is fun, but it wasn't the like cool Cronus kind of reveal that I was hoping it was gonna be. That's what I got from this episode, I guess.
Yeah, I thought to me the biggest thing was this episode felt very weird, and not Oliver Queen is full of bees weird, which is like the fun, exciting, absurd weird.
That was Theater of the Absurd.
I love
this is just,
That's going to be the new Jump the Shark, full of bees.
Yeah, Oliver Queen is full of bees. It's not that type of weird. It's the type of weird where almost every piece feels just out of step with what I think the intention was. And not all in the same way.
But at the same time, I would have to say, each little piece, even though they don't quite fit together, they're all good ideas.
Sure.
I felt like maybe separate they were good ideas. Like, I love the idea that they're stranded for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, in just this one space, and they build a life outside of, what the actual story's going to be. That was great.
No, the problem is we saw S.H.I.E.L.D. do that earlier in the season where they had a character who was stranded somewhere for 2 years, and we had an episode just focusing on what happened to her those 2 years. Admittedly, she was stranded on an alien planet, so we had a little more to go on there. But we had that full episode, and the way they played it out was like a horror movie, and this is like 2 years.
Well,
and I get that it's not the same situation, but we're missing a lot of the emotional impact and a lot of the setup that we could have had. You keep opening your mouth. Do the thing.
Oh, no, it's like I totally agree with you, and I know the episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. that you're talking about, but I'm thinking, like, while I agree that, yeah, I think I would have liked to have gotten more of a sense of their life together to really establish that emotional center, I don't think I would have really liked spending a whole episode watching the two of them live in the 50s as husband and wife.
Well, no, but 5 minutes was
Right.
like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, but what if they did this? What if they had no relationship building before this? What if this was the only time we see them together, and it's only after they spent 2 years together? That would be kind of cool, because then it would be, oh, they had something happen outside of this. I never thought of them getting together, but it happened because they were stranded in one place for 2 years.
Yes.
And then you see little glimpses of their life, and it looks interesting, and it looks like they got to enjoy a life outside of superhero-dom.
And
which would have been nice.
yeah, and that to me, I think would have felt so much more organic and natural than
Right.
the way they first introduced the idea of these two as a couple, which to me felt very, very contrived.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
also like two guys kind of fighting over a girl.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, so I guess if we look at this episode, it's almost like three. We've got this potential relationship that we could have seen just, with Kendra and Ray hanging out in the 50s. We could have seen a really cool exploration of the League of Assassins there with Sarah, kind of going a lot of backstory about the League of Assassins. Or we could have had Rory's journey from being just McRory to all of a sudden turning into Kronos.
Yeah.
How that whole journey would have gone through
to have
that.
seen that. Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But now it's just, I talk like Captain Barbossa.
He definitely,
Yeah.
his
God.
method of speaking.
He's
in-
got a Jeffrey Rush now, and I can't unhear it.
Yeah, and I didn't notice it at first because at first it sounded like he was still doing the same.
He is, but now he's got emphasis on different syllables.
And once you pointed
Right.
that out, I couldn't not hear it either. And it's slightly jarring to me. But then also, too, in the same episode, Sarah's hanging out with the League of Assassins for 2 years, and she comes back, and now it seems like she's got to shake her accent a little bit as
Right.
well.
See, but that I'll buy.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Well,
I can't even explain my own internal
No,
logic.
you know what? I'll buy it because we don't. Nanda Parbat is not a real place, but we've seen that everybody there does speak with a specific dialect. As far as the Time Masters go, like the most prominent Time Master that we've met so far is Martin Donovan, who talks like Martin Donovan. So
Yeah.
I don't know who
Drews.
Drews. I don't know who Heatwave.
It was such a small, minor, just
excuse me, folks. Like Drews.
Like, do you think?
right.
Do you think if all the Time Lords, if all the Time Masters
Time Lords.
sound
Easy slip up to do.
sound like Martin Donovan or like Americans essentially? Do you think that Heatwave was actually hanging around people who talked that way and it rubbed off on him, or do you think he went, "This armor's cool, I'm gonna do a voice"?
Right.
Oh my God, no, he's not Batman. Where are the drugs? I honestly think.
talk in the future.
Well, and if you hang,
has throat cancer in the future.
quit smoking. But if you hang out with someone who has an accent for long enough, or if you're in a country where they all have accents, or if you learn a foreign
Right.
language, you're usually taught the accent with the language.
I thought he talked like this beforehand. I don't hear it, guys. I gotta say.
I'm
Didn't
glad you
I
don't
said-
because I can't un-Barbosa it. I can't. It's Captain Barbosa.
I feel like he's always been talking like this and always has like a weird way of talking. He's the exact opposite of Snart, who just talks like Catwoman the entire time.
Yes.
Yeah, but I love him for it.
That's definitely what he's going for.
Like
Snart.
Eartha Kitt?
Yeah, he's definitely going for Eartha Kitt.
Don't
I
care,
think
still
that's-
beautiful.
Yeah.
If I ever get to ask him a question, it's like you doing an homage to Eartha Kitt on purpose, right? Because I think that's exactly what he's doing. And then the opposite of that is Heatwave, who's like the
Doing Christian Bale
Waits.
Batman or Tom Waits, yeah.
So, as we're talking about this episode, we're talking about good old Mickey Rory there being Cronus, but we start the episode kind of picking up where we left off, where our Cronus attacks the Wave Rider, takes it over,
Yeah.
and launches it off back into temporal orbit, so to speak. There, absconding away with Stein, Rip, Jax, and Snart, and we get to replay the scene where Stein and Jax say we
Oh my God.
cannot combine. We cannot
This is
combine.
my-
It's too dangerous,
this is my
and yet they
favorite
do
part.
it later, and it's not a big deal.
And it's not
Yeah.
later. It's almost immediately.
Almost
Like,
immediately.
we can't do it. We'll destroy the ship. But we got to do it because we're doing it anyway.
And then
Okay.
what do they do with this awesome nuclear power? They blast through a door, and then that's it.
And that's it.
Yes.
Then they
And that's
separate.
it. For one, okay, they were scared of. This is my favorite part of the show, I think, actually, because they were afraid of blowing up the ship. So the first thing they do is almost blow up the ship by blasting something, and then immediately they realized it was all for naught, and then that they should just separate. It made no sense. It was a weird. The entire time, this what happens in this show is I keep wanting them to bust out the superpowers. So they finally bust out the superpowers, and nothing kind of happens. But on the flip side of that, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and I imagine we'll just jump around.
Yeah.
But one of the best parts of the show was actually the little fight at the end. The little fight in fighting
Nanda
Parbat. Yeah, where you got to see everyone be superheroes.
Well,
and every time.
That's why I mean, I will keep watching this show. Even if we weren't doing this after show, I would keep watching this show just for that. At the end of the day, I am a fairly simple creature, and all I really need to see is Firestorm flying around next to Hawkgirl, and I can justify having spent the last 40 minutes watching this show.
Yeah, and the Atom shrinking real small, going to a different spot, and getting real big and fighting, and that's fine. That's like everyone was doing their versions of their powers, and that's fun to see.
Yeah, and we see them.
If we weren't doing the after show, I would be watching it with a glass of wine.
Oh, for sure.
Possibly more than one.
Right.
Fair enough.
So
We should be doing that even though
we really should. Someone bring like a bottle of vodka next week, and we'll be like,
And
all right.
And that's the thing, is like this show is so full of very fun nods to the comics and the broader source material, not just in getting to see these guys use their powers, and most significantly, and I think that most importantly, using them in conjunction with one another.
Yeah.
But also, I like the idea of, okay, we're back in time, so we get to see Matt Nable's Ra's al Ghul again. We get to see the introduction of Talia to this universe, as far as I know.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think I think it was great to see Ra's al Ghul. I'm real curious about why they brought in Talia, who's much older than I expected her to be, because I guess because she looked about 10?
8 or 10.
8 or 10, and it was
And that's in
Tiny
1960.
It's in 1960s, so she could be taking dips in the Lazarus pit,
Right?
But that means there's I'm not good at math here, but I believe that means we have like a 60-year-old, 70-year-old Talia,
Give or take.
walking
But with
around.
the Lazarus Pits, I mean, she probably kept herself very youthful.
We've
And,
just never
very young.
seen her in this universe
Right.
until now.
and
so
they specifically
they
didn't.
add her up as a player, and now they can bring her in Arrow,
Yes.
looking ahead to season 5.
Well, and it's
Right.
interesting, too, that they chose to bring her in at all, because if I remember correctly, the reason that they used Nyssa on Arrow, and Nyssa is a far less known character, but the reason they used Nyssa is because once you introduce Talia, there are so many direct connections to Batman.
Batman, yeah. It's curious because I assumed, I'm not watching Gotham, but I assumed maybe they didn't bring in Talia so they can bring in like a baby Talia in Gotham, because I assumed it's just Muppet Babies, so I assumed it's just Muppet Babies with all the like superheroes and villains and stuff. So I assumed there was
Oh
going to
my
be
God.
like a baby Talia that comes in at some point, like
I
being
want
a
it now.
baby ninja jumping around.
But interestingly,
I want it now.
and this is tangentially
Hero
related,
babies.
Gotham and I'm not currently watching it. I watched a lot of the first season, but it's baby Bruce and baby Catwoman, and all of the other villains are full grown, which sounds like nonsense until I start thinking about the idea of a child Bruce Wayne in a little suit of armor fighting all of these people, and then I'm going, why aren't they doing that show? I would watch that.
So one of the other nods we get to DC
Back
is
to the show.
where Ray, Kendra, and Sarah are hanging out. They're hanging out in Hub City. Vic Sage's old stomping grounds, A Question.
That's right.
Yes, that was his city there in the DC Comics. So they're hanging out there, and they only get to spend, I think, 10 months or so. And then Sarah says, I got to get out, guys. I got to find a place where I belong.
Is that where he teaches Bill Gates' dad?
That
Yeah,
irritated me
evidently.
because a meet cute with Bill Gates' dad? Why not do something like Ted Kord or something like that? Like you could be talking like Ted Kord's father, something more DC related than a Bill Gates.
But it
cheap
reminded
joke.
me of it sounded like he was like, hey, William.
Yes.
This is your cousin, Marvin Gates. You know that new name you're looking for? Listen to this. Bill. It's Bill. Huh? Now invent a computer. I'm Marvin.
And that was the thing. Is like,
Oh my God.
it was already a weird enough choice to me, but then when Ray says, your son is Bill Gates, and the guy goes, Bill? oh, it's got a nice ring to it. I've never thought about that. As if Bill is not the most common nickname for William that exists.
And I love the idea that that's the only thing keeping him back from being a genius is that stupid name of William. They were calling him Will Gates this entire time. And they're like, this isn't working. He's not in the special classes. He's not an honor student. Damn you, Willie. Just be smart.
I think at that point he was an infant.
Yeah, probably.
That was the bigger problem.
So he was just taking like a square peg and putting it in the round hole and being like, and they're like, Willie, you're an idiot. And then they call him Bill, and then he
suddenly
moves
he
it
invents
over
Windows.
to the right. Yeah, he invents Windows
with his blocks.
Luckily, we don't have to spend much time there, though, because they reboot Wave Rider. Rip reboots Wave Rider, so they're able to come back to 60. 2 years have passed, so they skipped the 2 years. Come to 1960,
it's
pick
like
them up.
when your Windows computer shuts down and it tries to restore from the last session.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
I also enjoy that they just keep inventing new side effects from time travel.
Right.
Like linguistic disorientation.
That was great.
It's like, you made that
and
up,
then
didn't you?
subtitles.
Rip, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure you made that up just now.
I do have to say, I think it was a smart move to have the Wave Rider jump straight to 1960, straight to where the beacon is going off, because that made it so like, okay, that makes sense about why they skipped those 2 years. They didn't like go in limbo and spend a week in limbo or something.
Yeah, and then we
They
do
come
find
out
out
of
that
it.
during our time, though, that Ray's gone native. I mean, he really likes that life. He does not want to give it up and head back onto the Wave Rider.
Which makes sense, because Ray has that like Clark Kent thing going on with him. I mean, because you feel like he doesn't. He feels like he just wants to be the best human he could possibly be, and he just is, doing the superpower thing because that's the best thing he can bring. So I feel like he could just like fade into a normal life if he wanted to.
A social chameleon.
Well, because his first concern is like, I've got 50 papers to grade, and
By
these students,
hand.
Unlike those computer grades in the future.
And like he's not carrying the Atom suit around anymore, which I think is
Right.
telling in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would still
I
use
just-
it every now and then.
I want to talk about this because this is something that bothered me the whole episode, is that we came up with a lot of, it's displacement and they forget their identities if you're stuck in a different timeline for too long and all of this. Like, we keep coming up with these concepts that if they'd planted the seeds 3 or 4 episodes ago would have been great. Like if they talked about it when we were doing stuff in the gulag and they were stuck there for a couple days, like, okay, we can't stay here for too long because X, Y, Z, and Theta. And they lay it out, and even though it doesn't play out there, you can still drop the line and then have it come back later and go, oh, this is what happened. Remember, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Was that a real thing though? A real like side effect of time travel, or was it just her kind of psychologically fading out of her life? Like,
Well,
not
Kendra
really wanting-
too. It would
Yeah,
hit the both of
I
them,
thought
so-
Rip had a line about how you can start
okay, I
losing
missed
connections to your old life, although that will clearly manifest differently from person to person depending on the needs of the plot at that moment.
Yeah.
They said that because of
Obviously.
Rory, didn't they?
I think maybe.
Yeah.
But then that's the thing. It's like this is a problem with a lot of time travel narratives where, and I'll be the first person to go, just don't think about it. There you go.
Yeah.
It's all taken care of if you don't think about it. But
But now it's getting to the point where we're not thinking about the show.
And that's the thing is with a time travel narrative, it's the more concepts you introduce and the more rules you introduce and the more side effects you introduce, the harder it becomes for the narrative to support the weight of all the pieces that you're introducing, and it becomes so needlessly complicated and overly convenient that suddenly nothing is important anymore.
Well, and you have to keep it straight as writers, as producers, as the role I can't remember who pretty much fact checks the script and makes sure that everything is on. You have to keep it straight because we're at the point as fans where we have fan-made Wikipedias and we can go back and we can rewatch episodes and people write transcripts and we have the information at our fingertips. You don't have to remember everything off the top of your head, but you need to make yourself a database because the fans will sit here and go, hang on, you're breaking the very hard rules that you established here and there are no consequences. What the heck? and that is the easiest way to gut the internal logic of your show. And once you do that, it's over.
And not to say, too, like, I think I have to tip my hat to the ambition of this show, because this is a very difficult concept to pull off. Time travel stories are tricky to begin with. Big ensemble time travel stories where you're trying to service all these different characters, different relationships, feed the audience that knows the source material, feed the audience that's just watching it because it's on the CW, to try and balance all of these pieces. And I'm sure it's also a very expensive show. All of that. It's very, very, very difficult. And it's very easy to lose sight of the bigger picture for all of the different moving parts that you have to balance. So I'm not saying they're doing a bad job with something that should be very easy. They're, I think, having varying degrees of success with something that is very, very difficult to do.
But I feel like for this episode, was it written by the same person who wrote the episode before it, who looked over it? This feels like...
this is what I meant by varying degrees of success.
Like when you're doing a group project and you have about 3-4 people who know their stuff and did the research, and then you have the guy who wrote a paragraph because he skimmed an article on Wikipedia.
Right.
And it's the weak link in the paper, and you have to try to shore it up. And that is what this episode feels like to me. We should have started with Adele, Rolling in the Deep, because we could have had it all. And this just was not there.
Well, I would think...
Fair enough. Fair enough. I also want to point out...
too intense?
Yeah, it was a bit too intense. The last episode, though, was also directed by, like, Joe Dante, who's, like, you know, a film director of pretty good quality, pretty high quality, and has made some classic stuff. And I'm not very sure who directed this one. But it's like, that's why TV is, you have like different creators every single different time. So there's stuff that they could have planned out. And there's pieces that are really strong, and we mentioned this before, that are really strong in this episode. Like, if they had ended the last episode with the Rory reveal, where everyone is about halfway through this show, after the 2-year jump, where you see, like, you know, League of Assassins, White Canary, and you see Rory as Cronus, and you see like them kind of in love, you see like Kendra and Ray in love, and you see that at the end of last episode, and then this episode is all about that missing time and kind of what happened, and you see like you know, Captain Cold without a hand, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, as you're saying this, I'm thinking to myself, and I was thinking to myself while we were watching the episode, it's that this episode is, you know, it's only 40-something minutes long. There is so much happening in this episode, and that too, it's a big ensemble show, and you have a lot of characters that you have to service every single week, but there was so much going on in this episode of import that it definitely felt like certain things that were meant to be a bigger deal were played a little strangely, or maybe felt a little unserviced. And I do think it would have been great to not have the reveal of Rory as Cronus to Snart happen in this episode. I love the idea of leaving that stuff out, then Snart shows up at Nanda Parbat, and they reveal Rory that way. The whole team finds out at once, and then you do the next episode and make the next episode about the missing time.
I mean,
that would have been amazing. Oh my god!
This is all like, what is it, Monday Night Coaching backseat or whatever?
Yeah, of course.
But
Monday Night Quarterback.
Monday Night Quarterback,
football thing, something.
Armchair quarterback. Thing.
But one thing that
Sporty foot.
that was pretty obvious to us, and because we should talk about Rory and Snart a little bit.
Yeah, well, I do want to talk about that, because it's one thing. It's that I feel like we all kind of agree that probably one of the most interesting stories out of the 3 that we had this episode was the Rory reveal as Cronus.
Yes.
Because I mean, this is a character we've been seeing pursuing our legends throughout this entire season so far, with very little knowledge of who he is or what his motivations are, and it's always kind of frustrating. He shows up for a moment, shoots at them, knocks them out of time, and then disappears. And so we really don't know this guy, and then we finally get a chance to learn about him, and it's rushed really quickly, just kind of brushed by. And so I feel like hearing Rory's story about how he was rescued, we find out what happened to him and Snart. Snart didn't kill him, just rendered him unconscious.
Right.
And then the Time Masters found him, and we hear all this, but we don't ever see it. And I think that was, as we've been talking, that was worthy of an episode in and of itself.
Yep.
Yeah, and also we kind of all guessed. I don't know if the rest of the viewers were like us, but as soon as they said, "Wait, why did Cronus just take Snart?" we all went, oh.
Yeah.
Well, this was a theory that existed on the internet before this episode.
Didn't
you know
I
what I mean?
throw this at you last night before Arrow? What did you think about the theory?
Yeah, this was a theory that existed, and I said to you, I believe, pretty much what I said to myself when I read it, which was, oh, okay.
Well, and one of my friends presented it to me, if you're watching. Hi, Heather. And she
Hi, Heather.
said,
Hello, Heather.
Hey.
What do you think? And I'm like,
Heather
no,
better be watching.
Kronos is too smart. That was my bottom line. Kronos is too smart.
But
this
it also,
is Mick we're talking
because something time travel, you could argue that we don't know how long he spent with the Time
about. Yeah,
Masters.
he said lifetimes, so
Right,
it could
so-
be anything.
And they could have made him a little smarter,
Yeah.
maybe, and gave him that weird voice that he talks
So,
in.
but it's weird that this episode ends with them going like, we have to deprogram Rory, because I'm like, all you're gonna do is take away the smarts, because
Yeah.
he's pretty much the same. There's not
Trade
too
the
much of
smarts
a
for the
difference.
snarts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what.
It's not like he really liked any of you before.
right. It's
The
not
one
like they
person
took Jackson
he cared
like.
about threw him under the bus, at least in his view.
Yeah,
And
it
I-
would have been great if again, this is backseat quarterbacking, but so I assume the term is. But if they had taken like Ray or something, someone who we know is like a hero and was born to be a hero, and turned him like super evil, that would have been like crazy. And they
Yeah.
definitely have to deprogram him.
I
don't know
would
if
be
he-
down for an evil Ray plot line. That would be the most interesting thing he's ever done.
Ray, I still like Ray because I
do.
think he's like kind of the pure hero of the group.
I don't
So-
dislike him. I'm just kind of tired of him.
Yeah, and I just think it's hard to buy Rory's, to get really invested in Rory's transformation into Cronus, because we only hear him just name check what happened to him.
Right.
We don't really actually see it. I mean, to see him strangling rats to survive.
Yeah,
By the time-
by the
which
way,
I was
not,
like,
not-
what?
Not eat rats to survive.
Just
Just
strangle them.
strangle rats to
Strangling
survive.
them.
If I don't kill something, I will literally die myself.
And not breaking their necks, not anything else. I mean, it's a rat. There are easier ways to kill it than
No
push down on its little windpipe and wait. Like,
I mean, that also counts as strangling to do that. If we want to get into let's map out exactly how one
God.
can strangle a
no.
rat and look at the myriad of ways.
I would like to say that none of us have any practical experience in this, so we
You
should
are
probably
assuming too much. You don't know me. You don't know my life. You don't know what rats have done to my family.
Goodbye.
How often has Dave been left in time?
That's true.
I had to, have to occupy something. There's no Netflix in the forest. Only strangling rat and chilling.
And chilling. Nice.
Halfway
You
through
wanna come over and
strangling rats and
strangle some
chill,
rats?
he gives you this look.
Oh, man.
So we also find lastly our last storyline here is when they all kind of gather together, and without Snart, since he's with Rory there in Cronus on his ship, they all had to net a Parbat to get back Sarah, and of course, much like everybody else has kind of gone native, Sarah's definitely gone way super native.
Yep.
Really embraced those leagues of assassin roots there. She feels like this is where she's most comfortable. She feels like she has a purpose here, and she basically just kind of captures the legends when they come up to try to rescue her. But it's not until Cronus comes back that. Well, first they stage a little battle. Rick tries to trick him, like, we'll do a battle.
Right. It also makes sense that she would go back to them because she's doing that whole bloodlust thing. She kind of did what, what's her name? Thea?
Thea.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thea.
and by the way, Ra's al Ghul has the line about, with the training and the meditation and the herbs, we seem to have solved the bloodlust problem, and they just skate right past that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That seems like a thing we might want to spend 2 or 3 seconds on.
I feel like he has some of the magical herbs that Oliver had, or the magical herbs that were used to keep Oliver. There's a lot of magical herbs in this series,
And
from
to be-
multiple different places.
Yeah.
To be fair, it's probably like a solid 2 years of that. So,
That's true too.
I get why they're not talking more about it right then. I don't get why the show doesn't pause to acknowledge that we apparently solved your big character crisis.
fair
That's
enough.
true. Admittedly, we've gotten quite a few character crises out of the way to make room for, but you were my friend and now you want to kill us all, and we're going to go into the worst possible part of the timeline because we are 1,000% out of options already, despite having only found him in 3 different places?
Yeah.
3?
But then, too, it's like I was saying before, then it's like we get to this fight and we see exactly what I'm tuning into this show every week to see, which is these powered people using their powers in conjunction with one another. And for a few minutes, I'm really, really happy because there is a lot. And I'm a huge nerd, fine, but there's so much joy in that for me, and that keeps me hooked into it. You know what I mean? Like that does to me justify my watching through some stuff that I'm going, what? Yeah, that's the payoff that I get because there is such a wonderful, happy, cool looking.
True, but then I also think like you're gonna bring back Ra's al Ghul for an episode. Let's have him fight. Too.
He doesn't.
He just stands there. He does nothing, and that was so frustrating.
I loved the trial by combat though, and that's also what I'm talking about with setting up something previously. We'd set up their friendship previously, so it's like, no, you should fight Sarah. You can bring out her human side. Was a really, really good payoff for that. And then that whole scene was just beautiful.
Yeah. Bird fight.
And but like to what you're saying, Frank, about you have Ra's al Ghul back for an episode and he doesn't do very much. We're watching the episode and Dave, I believe it was you who his entrance. There's not really a build up, there's not a grand reveal of Ra's al Ghul. He just walks in.
Hey, it's me, remember me? Hello. Hey, cool guys. There's no like, whoa,
Hi,
he's back.
Yeah, he just walks in, which is okay. That's fine. That's a serviceable entrance, I suppose.
Right.
But it's the head of the demon.
And he walks in with a little girl that I assumed was the daughter we've met.
Right.
So then I was creeped out for a good 2 minutes before they said her name. Was like, she's just hanging out with her girlfriend as a kid.
Yeah. But no, it's the other one.
Oh no, it's the other one.
This isn't the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But then also before they leave, Sarah says the stuff to Ra's al Ghul about make sure that your daughter is off the coast of this island at this time and make sure she's specifically there and look for Oliver Queen. He'll be the guy full of bees, and also you're probably going to want to name your daughter Nissa. I'm pretty sure this won't mess with the timeline at all. Gotta go.
You know what? Here's the show Bible to Arrow. Why don't you just take a look over it? It'll be a little confused in the front, but then you'll get rid of the grittiness after Flash is introduced. That'll be great.
And Ra's al Ghul looks up, what is a CW?
And speaking of Flasher for a second, we do get one cool moment in this whole thing where we get Snart on the jump ship there, and to get out of his restraints, he freezes his own hand and then breaks it off.
Awesome.
To get out of there.
He was going to try and freeze off the cuffs. This is not a development I was expecting.
Another development I was not expecting, the reveal of the Wave Rider's hand machine.
Yes, as Snart says, why didn't you tell us this before?
That was a moment where I was like, wow, they're doing something bold. They're changing a character.
They're going out on a limb.
Maybe. Stop it. But I wanted them to maybe have a gun hand. It'll be kind of cool. All right, cool. And then they immediately get rid of it. They kind of back off.
And now what we know is if you get a fracture in your hand, for example, or a fracture in your upper, you just chop your limb off and make a new one in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like Gideon is very good about for some reason you can't save Kendra. She's got little shards of the nth metal in her. It's really hard to save her. Can't save their son when he gets blasted by Cronus there, but they can grow back your hand. So it's varying scales of what Gideon can do.
If it's
Gideon
it's fine, but if it's in you, God help you.
Gideon is the time stream's biggest troll.
We gotta move to some news.
Yes. Yeah, we got some newsy
we
bits.
end the episode. We're heading off into the future, 2147, everybody. So we're heading off into there, one of the most dangerous times.
And we'll see Vandal Savage again.
Yes, of course we do. So some news here. We got Patrick J. Adams, who stars on Suits there, is going to be playing the beloved DC character that's going to be revealed at the season finale. But we do know, while we don't know which character specifically, we do know he's not going to be Booster Gold.
Yeah.
Right.
There is some innuendo in the article that EW printed there that it could be the Question, which could be kind of cool.
Which would be cool, but as we briefly talked about before we watched the episode tonight, I would much rather see Renee Montoya Question.
Yes.
Big stage for me. Sorry,
up.
guys. Got to go with the old school. He's too awesome.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right. The other one.
Why
speaking
not
of
both?
yes. Why not both? Why not?
Why not?
But as long as Vic comes first. All right. Anyway.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I'm fine
feel
with
loved.
any question. I'm fine with a whole different question. It could be a dog question. No,
What if it's
Dog question.
rhetorical?
Now there you go.
As long as they don't have a face.
As we've been talking about the Legends of Tomorrow, of course, we break this down every single week here when the show is up and running. And episode 13, we're going to have Sarah Nicole Jones, one of the producers of the show and the writer of that particular episode. She's going to come in and join us here in the studio. We're going to be talking all about Legends of Tomorrow. We're going to put her on their hot seat.
Hot seat.
Hot seat. Ask her all those probing questions that we've got.
Yeah. Like what?
Yep, there you go. This is the kind of questions that Lex will be
Very
asking.
probing.
What? What's that?
Very probing.
Who? Not what, but when?
And lastly, AfterBuzz was at WonderCon last weekend, and they had a chance to interview some of the cast from Legends of Tomorrow. And we're going to play a little clip here of what Brandon Routh thinks is in store for the folks here at for the tail end of season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow.
expect from the second half of this season?
A lot of big, exciting things. We've got a little bit of romance coming in. We've got characters jingling quite a bit. We've got some new and evolved powers that we'll see later into the season, and Vandal Savage wreaking more havoc on our team and really making a strong stake for world domination. The future is at stake.
Oh, look at that!
Two-part question. What
Look
era
at that.
did
So,
you most enjoy filming in? And then the second one would be, which era have you not shot in you'd most like to?
Yeah, I actually like the Western.
Ooh, that's right. They've got the Western show coming up.
No, it's 18 something that we went to, and that was quite a bit of fun actually. I enjoyed getting in my duster and my cowboy hat and all that kind of stuff.
All right, cool. So you can check out the rest of these interviews here on our AfterBuzz webpage. We're going to tweet out the link where you can check out all the interviews that the AfterBuzz crew did with the cast of Legends of Tomorrow at WonderCon. So we saw Brandon do a couple teases about what lays ahead. So that thinks is a nice segue into predictions. We'll try to get a little more specific in ours.
Right.
Yes.
Your AfterBuzz TV.
Light show.
There you go. So, Katie, Brendan was a little vague about what's in store for us here, but what kind of specific predictions do you have?
Well, obviously going to 2147 to potentially kill baby Hitler. We're not sure what exactly that preview meant.
Future Hitler.
Isn't going to work. I mean, obviously their last resort is not going to pan out because it is way the heck too early in the season for that. I'd love to see the Western, though. I am down.
Yeah.
I predict that someone will wind up in a Stetson. I don't care who. It's going to be great.
I'm excited about the Western stuff. I think it'll be fun because we're going to get Jonah Hex there.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm also excited. They keep teasing Legions of Superhero throughout. There was like a flash of it in The Flash, and during the Supergirl Flash crossover, they linger on a Legion ring in the Fortress of Solitude. That could mean that the Legion of Superheroes is going to appear in Supergirl, but I also think it could make an appearance in the Arrowverse, and I actually think Legends of Tomorrow would be the perfect place for it, because they're all from the future, there's time travel involved, and it's an ensemble cast of superheroes. So it'll be perfect to make an appearance here. So it could be the Question at the end, or it could be maybe he's playing a Brainiac or a member of
A Lightning Lad?
Yeah, Lightning Lad, someone from the Legion of Superheroes.
You know, it would be cool because in the comics, Superboy is the inspiration for the Legion of Superheroes. But what if the Legends of Tomorrow were the inspiration for the Legions of Superheroes?
That might be a good way of doing it.
Question: does the news piece say that he's playing a beloved DC hero or beloved character?
A character.
Okay, so that could go either way. So he could
be the villain.
It could be a Brainiac or something to that effect. I feel like
Brainiac's good in Legion of Superheroes.
Sure, but I do think the movies are going to try and use Brainiac, and so that means maybe we don't know where the usage of that's going to go. I bet if the movies using Brainiac will be very angry.
And even in Supergirl, they kept calling her Indigo. The Brainiac of Supergirl was like Indigo because they were trying to separate.
We're in weird
Brainiacs.
copyright limbo when it comes to the movies, aren't we?
Slightly, but we're gonna get Jonah Hex, which is awesome. We're gonna get. I know. I watched the promo for the second half of the season, and you see a lot of cool little bits and pieces. But I believe Brandon Routh made a reference to expanded powers. If I'm not mistaken, we see glimpses of Ray getting very large in the suit, which is exciting because at that point you can just have Hawkgirl on your foot and step on Vandal Savage and have her with the knife.
There you go. Yes.
And maybe that'll be the season finale. It's like we stepped on him and we got rid of Hawkgirl. Oh well. Goodbye, guys.
I guess. I feel like for them to continuously go into the future, I always feel like is diminishing returns. I feel like to stop Vandal Savage, you need to just keep going backwards.
Right.
Because then you're always meeting him and he doesn't know who you are. Mm-hmm. Because keep going into the future, he's always going to know who you guys are all the time. So
very true.
I don't know why you just don't keep going backwards in time. But then again, I am not in the writer's room. That's going to be one of my questions I'll be asking Sarah Nicole Jones when she's here for episode 13.
Well, the further back you go, the bigger the ripples that you cause are.
True.
But if you're just trying to kill Vandal Savage, I don't
Some
know.
pretty big ripples.
Yeah, but
We'll find out.
I guess
on a
so.
future episode.
That's right.
AfterBuzz.
We'll be back here next week to break down episode 10 of Legends of Tomorrow. In the meantime, Katie, where can they find you to continue the conversation?
You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet. I'm also on Snapchat at Kia Prime. And Transformers Robots in Disguise is back on Sundays. Blind Spot is Tuesdays. And Arrow is Wednesdays.
You can find me everywhere at MrDaveChild and DaveChild.com. Remember to go on iTunes and like us, like this show, and review it, and put a lot of 5 stars on there.
A lot of
Love
5
us.
stars. A lot. Put at least 70 stars.
At least 70.
At least 70. I'm Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael. And look, here's Frank.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. Yes, as Dave said, like us on Facebook, rate us on iTunes, give us those blinking 5 stars that'll give you a seizure because they're strobing so quickly. We'll see you next time here on Legends of Tomorrow After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Bye, guys.
Woo!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.